Hello there. It's Chris from Airwindows, and I have a plugin for you today. But it's not the one you're hearing, that's next week. I am trying to work through a backlog of some stuff to do, and what I've got for you this week is a little plugin called PurestConsole2. And that looks a little bit like this. So as you can see, I've got an instance of this on hat. Got a bunch of instances and everything. And instance of PurestConsole bus. Actually, hang on. I want PurestConsole2 bus. What am I doing? I got confused. Let's go and make the correct thing happen. Boom. There we go. So these all should be PurestConsole2 channel, and this is PurestConsole2 bus. And I spent all day trying to record music that I thought would demonstrate this better than the stuff I usually do, which I don't know how well I succeeded, but I got something, so here. First of all, let me close these. As you can see, they have no controls on them. So you can't really see anything going on. Then secondly, we're not hearing them this instant because this is a Console 7 mix. Although all the gain stuff is set up so I don't need to adjust anything, I'm not using Console 7's gain features for this. Instead, I'm just using gain earlier in the channel and balancing everything that way. Also, all of my buses are just doing a reverb, so I'm running them without any of the extra console stuff. But what we've got is a piece of music that's kind of cranking away like this. So this is Console 7. We got a lot of stuff going on in here in this mix, including a bunch of funny things like I have some kind of thing where eBase is not allowed to mute, and that's weird, but I don't have to worry about that right now. I'll figure out what made it do that later. Because for whatever reason, eBase will not silence itself. It even shows. But let's take a moment and show you what PurestConsole 2 is like. And I'll tell you the reason that PurestConsole 2 exists is because PurestConsole 1, Console 7. There are many versions of all these things, and I don't remove earlier versions, so you can use any of them. But Console 7 used the filtering that I put in above 20K, like Supersonics, and it starts rolling off at 20K. We're currently at 96K here. So it's starting to do a roll-off at 20K, and as you can hear on the track, there's a certain space, there's a certain glue to it. But PurestConsole 2 is for another purpose. It started off as PurestConsole, which is the simplest form, doesn't have any controls on it or anything like that. It's strictly for using, replacing your digital mix bus. And then I added the filtration, but the filtration, firstly, cuts off as higher than 20K. It doesn't just cut off at 20K. It cuts off at 25, 30, something like that. but it's also rolling off a little more steeply than you can really do to have a clean cutoff. So PurestConsole2 has a bit of treble lift built in the supersonic regions before it starts doing its aliasing control stuff. That is still happening. That is happening slightly better than in Console 7, but there's a cost. And the cost is, this is something I'm going to try with some of the tape plugins, that the supersonic frequencies, they lift a little bit before they start rolling off and suppressing aliasing problems. And here is what that sounds like. First I'll play the Console 7 version and then switch to PurestConsole. That little high note, that is Farfisa organ. So you can hear how that works. I'll go back. This is a little bit more glued. It is a little bit darker. Maybe it sounds more like an analog desk. But PurestConsole2, no suppression of the super highs. In fact, they lift just a bit. You can hear stuff like simple things going on, or indeed this track. That kind of came out more. Yeah, hang on. If we go back to the regular console version, we've got a different balance there. It's just a lot sparklier. So I'm still trying to learn how to make music that sounds good, although that's using some of the funky chord stuff I've been working on over recent years. So people were like, oh, that sounds Arabian or something. It's using music theory that I've been working on for a while. Here, let me make my voice sound more interesting by going into lots of reverb. This will also demonstrate the difference between, sorry, I keep forgetting to select all the channels. I have all these things set up so that if I hit everything in a line, it'll switch over to the different channel, but then if I forget to select all the channels, it won't switch all of the plugins at once. But as you can hear, I've got a humongous reverb going on. You're going to get this next week. It is a very large reverb. And it can be a very dark reverb too. But yeah, the deal with this is if you have the previous version of Console, we can have a kind of dark effect going on here. And then, if we switch to PurestConsole, we can get the same thing, but you get kind of an additional height going on, and the high frequency brightness and spaciness is much more present. And we can go back to the previous version. Now, this is not really demonstrating, well, look, it is and it isn't. This is putting the new verb, which is next week, into the plugin. This is running inside console in both cases. So what we got is, I can make it be a little quieter maybe. Oh, I'm adjusting the bus on both of these channels because everything's selected. Hey, one of the things about Logic. But as you can hear, running inside Console 7, you get a real sense of the depth of the reverb. It is a lot bigger sounding and deeper sounding because there is not an attempt to bring everything forwards, even sibilance. On the other hand, fire up PurestConsole with the same settings, and the detail inside this reverb and the sibilance and everything, it's kind of coming forwards at you more than it otherwise would do with the other kind of console. So there you have it. Airwindows PurestConsole2 is what you get this week. All that reverb stuff, I'm polishing that up. I was up until 4 o'clock in the morning working on that reverb the other day. I think it's coming along pretty good, though. And that is coming next week. I might have a few final touches to do to it, but it's getting pretty done. We're getting pretty finished with it. But for now, with a bit of luck, you'll find PurestConsole2 useful. Again, this is using the aliasing control stuff, so it's like, if I'm not mistaken, it's not going to be any different from the original PurestConsole at 44.1K because you can't boost like 30K at 44.1K. It just doesn't happen. So you have to be running at a higher sample rate, but if you run at a higher sample rate, like you can hear now, you get this sort of hyper attention thing, the ASMR kind of stuff going on, where we have a lot of extra focus on the super high frequencies. Whereas if we switch back, like I'm going to do when I select all this, we switch back, and what I have now is a similar thing, but it's more of a big analog console kind of connection there. It's not hyping out the super highs in quite the same way. It's just providing a coherency and solidity and stuff. I'm still going to favor this for a lot of stuff. But if you wanted to do either the main mix, or say you're mixing stuff like a bunch of vocals, or a bunch of acoustic guitars, a bunch of elements where you just want it to be shimmery and shiny, you could run your submix many times if you're doing a console mix. You might be doing it through into the sub-buses, like I had a whole set of sub-buses there, and different things are going into different submixes, which are being summed into the overall console, and so you can use different kinds of stuff, like for instance, if you're slamming things, you can use a Console 7 mix with Console 7 Cascade, which I'm not doing this time around, on the drums to make it kind of huge and powerful and more deep and solid sounding. But you could have guitars and things on a submix where, kind of like I'm about to do now, you could go to PurestConsole2 and have less of that solidity, less of that solidness and heaviness going on, but just hyper detail, hyper resolution. And that could be a thing that'll work. So, with that in mind, we'll switch it back off, go back to my original Console 7. You might or might not be able to hear this as I do it, but I've been switching back and forth with it, and you should hopefully be able to hear the different sounds of the digital mix bus, even on just the one track going into the summing, because these now all kind of do their own thing. That is PurestConsole2. the kind of lighter, airier hype the supersonics a little bit while still controlling aliasing. In fact, since the filters are so steep that they're a little bit peaky, they're rolling off faster, so it's controlling aliasing even better. And that has its uses as well. But for now, I am going to stop talking about it, and I'm going to go and post it. So I hope you like PurestConsole2, and I'll talk to you later. Oh, yeah, all of this is supported by Patreon, blah, blah, blah. I'll make some kind of reference to it in the post. Anyways, I got to get back to work. People were bugging me for M1 ports to everything, and I have a pile of work to do on that as well as the usual flow of plugins coming out. And sometimes when it's like the new reverb, it's hard to deal with porting 200 plugins when you could be coding the new reverb. So I'll do the best I can. You got to bear with me. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.